Alright everybody, James Krasnerick back here, breaking down the top 10 Super Bowls of all time. I want to get a few honorable mentions here real quick. There are several games that were in the history of the National Football League that have been made beautifully ugly, and I think Super Bowl V between the Baltimore Colts and Dallas Cowboys could be described as that. I think they had like 13 turnovers between the two teams. The flyover was like 5 minutes off. You know, all the quarterbacks in the game struggled because, you know, the Colts played several different quarterbacks, and, you know, the Cowboys rotated Craig Morton. But that game was just, you know, it was just so tough to watch because all the blunders that both teams made, both penalties, turnovers, you name it. But another game a few years later was one of the best games I ever saw, and that would be Super Bowl X between the Cowboys and the Steelers. The Steelers' second ring would be the result of a 21-17 victory over Dallas, as the Steelers mounted a comeback in the second half in order to take them their second title. But continuing on from my previous list, number 10 on my list was Super Bowl 44 between the Saints defeating the Colts. Number 9 was Super Bowl III, the Jets defeating the Colts, and the number 8 Super Bowl on my list was Super Bowl 36 between the Patriots and the St. Louis Rams. Moving on here, number 7, Super Bowl 38. The New England Patriots, on a last-second field goal by Adam Vinatieri, doesn't that sound familiar, defeat the Carolina Panthers in Houston 32-29. MVP quarterback Tom Brady. Seems like Brady's in a lot of these big games, isn't he? But what makes this game so unique among some of the biggest shootouts in league history was, again, like the previous Super Bowl on the list that New England was involved in, you had two teams that were, on paper, complete mismatches. You had the Patriots with the best record in the league that year, 14-2, versus the 11-5 Panthers, who had to claw their way into the Super Bowl with several come-from-behind victories in the regular season, double overtime win over the Rams in the playoffs. But on paper, the Patriots were favored in that game, but the Panthers came to play. I mean, they hung tough with New England for that whole game. There was never a point where New England was in complete control. Except for the end when they nailed the field goal, but then again, I'm talking about in the game. The game started really on like a scoreless tear. It was the longest scoreless start to a Super Bowl in Super Bowl history. But before the end of the half, you know, the game just picked up. Patriots and the Panthers started making some big plays down the field. The scores would eventually read as the Patriots would get a 5-yard touchdown to Deion Branch. The Patriots would tie it with a 39-yard pass from quarterback Jake Delhomme to receiver Steve Smith. Then Brady would again throw another touchdown to his wide receiver David Givens. And then right before the end of the half, Carolina kicker John Casey, who I'll bring up later, nailed a 50-yard field goal. Again, after halftime, scoreless to start the next half. Third quarter, like the first quarter, was entirely scoreless. Then New England drove down, got a 2-yard run for a touchdown by Houston native Antoine Smith. Following that, Carolina would score 2 touchdowns. Both times they'd go for 2-point conversions and both would fail. But at that point, Carolina had the lead in the game for the first time. But following a long drive from Tom Brady and the Patriots offense, Carolina would have another long drive. Both of those drives would result in touchdowns. The New England one would be Tom Brady to linebacker Mike Vrabel, who has been known to catch touchdowns in the Super Bowl, as he would do in that Super Bowl and the next year in Super Bowl 39 against the Eagles. And the Carolina Panthers would score on a 12-yard pass from Jake Delhomme to Ricky Proehl, who is not again tying the Patriots late in Super Bowls as he did in the previous one, Super Bowl 36, when he was a member of the Rams. But this game really swung in its momentum at the very, very last drive in the game. And that would be when Carolina kicker John Casey kicked off and the ball went out of bounds. Anytime that happens on a kickoff, it's an automatic penalty, and the team that was receiving the kickoff gets the ball at their 40-yard line. So as if you didn't have to worry about dealing with Tom Brady having a minute and a half and 2 timeouts. You now have to give him, excellent field position. And he would make him pay. Patriots drove right down the field, and Adam Vinatieri again. 41-yard field goal, right between the uprights, dead center. Patriots take Super Bowl 38. This game was a very unusual one because there were periods of drought in terms of scoring, and there were periods, it was feast or famine pretty much with scoring. I mean, both quarterbacks played incredibly well. I mean, Jake Delhomme's passer rating was higher than Tom Brady's, and he didn't throw an interception. Tom Brady, of course, had one, and that would halt a drive deep in Carolina territory. But this game, I think, a lot of people have a mixed opinion. They look at the score and some of the incredible performances by whether it be Brady or Delhomme, and they put this game into the top 5. And a lot of people say they don't really remember it very much because, A, it was the Carolina Panthers, and B, it was just Brady getting another ring. But I'll put it right in the middle. I'll put it at number 7. I think that's a fair spot to put on this list. I mean, one of the highest scoring Super Bowls in Super Bowl history, and another win for the Patriots. Moving on. Number 6. Voted by many as the greatest Super Bowl of all time, Super Bowl 34 between the St. Louis Rams and the Tennessee Titans. These two teams couldn't have been more different. The Titans were a grinding, physical team with a powerful running game led by running back Eddie George, a stout defense, one of the best in the league. And you had the St. Louis Rams, the first year of the greatest show on turf. Kurt Warner, Torrey Holt, Marshall Faulk, Isaac Bruce, Oz Hakeem. The weapons on this team just go on and on. That year they would put up 526 points. Far and away first in the league, and they won their games by 17.8 points per game. That's one of the highest point differentials in league history because their defense was giving up 15 points a game. That's scary that a team can put up 33 a game and give up 15. That's almost impossible to beat a team playing that well. This game was a rematch of the regular season game in which the Rams lost in Tennessee at the end due to a missed field goal, 24-21. In this game coming out, this was a very, very slow start for both teams. I mean, no team really got on the board quickly. I mean, ultimately, the first scores of the game would be field goals. 3 straight Jeff Wilkins field goals from 27, 28, and 29 yards would pretty much be the only scoring before halftime. Then coming out in the third quarter, the Rams drove down and got a touchdown pass from Kurt Warner to Torrey Holt, and the Rams led 16-0. Once that happened, Titans coach Jeff Fisher was pissed. So he got his whole team together and, quote-unquote, he said in a speech that the last time I heard you had to outscore somebody for 4 quarters. They're celebrating. They're celebrating right now. Go win the game. And the Titans responded. 2 straight drives involving Eddie George touchdowns, one a missed extra point, or one a missed 2-point conversion, and an Al Del Greco field goal tied the game at 16. And then coming out off the sideline after the touchdown, the Rams called play. It was 9.99, which was an all-go route when they sent all their receivers deep. And Kurt Warner nailed Isaac Bruce. 73 yards down, 73-yard touchdown pass. The last 20 yards, nobody could catch Isaac Bruce, and it was a 23-16 lead the Rams would have. The Titans would drive down, 6 seconds to go. They would have no timeouts, and they'd have the ball on the 10-yard line. Steve McNair threw a pass to Kevin Dyson, and he just came up 1 yard short. Amazing tackle by Mike Jones to end the game. This game, in terms of its pure quality, absolutely one of the top Super Bowls of all time. Number 6 in the list is fair. I mean, you can't put too many games above it, but then again, it's ahead of so many other ones. I mean, the list I have put together, the only ones that I felt deserved to be ahead of it were the ones that truly deserved it. I mean, I'm putting together a list based on, you can't really make an argument. The fact that Kurt Warner set a record 414 passing yards in this game, the fact that, the late touchdown, the comeback by Tennessee, and the last-second stop at the goal line by linebacker for the Rams, Mike Jones. You have everything you need to create an interesting Super Bowl. Alrighty then, moving on. We've reached the end of the first half of our list. Now it's time to start the second half. For those of you who didn't catch the first half of my list, I'll repeat it really quickly. Game number 10, Super Bowl 44, Saints defeat Colts. Number 9, Super Bowl 3, Jets defeat Colts. Number 8, Super Bowl 36, Patriots defeat Rams. Number 7, Super Bowl 38, Patriots defeat Panthers. Number 6, and I just recently did it, Super Bowl 34, Rams defeat Titans. Number 5 on our list is one that has been considered the greatest Super Bowl of all time by many, and it'd be Super Bowl 25 in Tampa between the New York Giants and the 6-point favorite Buffalo Bills. The Giants had started off the year hot. Phil Simms, a quarterback, had the highest pass rating in the league at one point. Very, very physical ground game. One of the best defenses in league history for a while, the way the Giants defense played under Bill Parcells, with guys like Lawrence Taylor, Harry Carson, Carl Banks. You name those. They had great players in the mid to late 80s and early 90s. This would be the last really great year that they had. But they kind of slumped into the playoffs. They had a victory over the Bears in the divisional round, and then in the NFC Championship game, they went out to San Francisco, knocked Joe Montana out of the game late on a big sack force fumble, and they would drive down the field thanks to another fumble, and they would make a field goal, and that would be the difference, and the Niners would lose that game 15-13 as San Francisco advanced. It says New York advanced to the Super Bowl 25. You had the Buffalo Bills, on the other hand, a team that was just an offensive juggernaut, scoring 25, 26 points a game, giving up a lot less. In the AFC Championship game, they beat the LA Raiders 51-3. That's not a typo. It's not 51-30, and you forgot to put the extra 0 after after Los Angeles' total. 51-3. You don't even see games that one-sided in the regular season, hardly. Let alone the AFC title game between supposedly the two best teams in the AFC. Anyways, the Bills were 6-point favorites, and it was viewed that the Bills would be able to put up enough points, regardless how long the Giants held the football, to win the game. But the Giants played ball control football. Bill Parcells, head coach of the Giants, looked at one of his assistants and uttered these 3 words: "Shorten the game." Shorten the game. And they did that. The way that they did it, though, was unprecedented. They wore down the Buffalo Bills defense. There was a period from the end of the first half when the Giants scored on a long drive to the midway through the third quarter where the Buffalo Bills did not get the football. And they were getting stiff over there on the sidelines. They hadn't really, been moving around or doing anything. And that ultimately was a huge factor because the Bills, they didn't take into account how much the Giants would shorten the game. But anyways, what this game is most noted for is how it ended. The Giants led 20-19 at the very end of the game. And ultimately, Scott Norwood, that kicker, missed it just to the right, just wide to the right. The Giants escaped with the upset victory, and that would be really the first of Buffalo's first 4 losses in the Super Bowl. This game, neither team committed a turnover. It was a very, very clean football game. Both teams played well. They're definitely two of the best, probably the 2 best teams in the NFL that year. It was a battle of different styles. You had the Giants' defense and the Bills' offense. Made for an interesting game. And the Giants were very, very lucky to come out on the winning end of it. Alright, coming up in a moment's notice, Super Bowls 4 through 2. 2 wins for a certain team, and a longtime loser finally gets his ring. All that coming up.